Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I have a quick recap for you on how I traded XOM today using TradyFlow and VPA. There were several factors I want to show that gave me conviction on this trade, and I'd like to go over all of them along with how I actually executed it. Before we get started, if you would like to get a 10% discount for TradyTicks, don't forget to use my referral link in the description. You'll also find referral links for TradingView and TopStat funded trader programs that will give us both discounts. Lastly, if you enjoy this content, don't forget to like and subscribe to help me grow this channel. So with all that being said, let's get into it. You can see here I have the TradyFlow dashboard up, which you can find here on the left toolbar on TradyFlow. Now the signals that TradyFlow generates are absolutely incredible. And one thing I noticed is that XOM and Oxy kept popping up, which are both energy plays. And all week, if you look at this yellow line here, XLE, this is the energy sector. And you can even see from the bar here, all week, we have been seeing energy coming down hard. It had this massive run up, and there were some very bullish energy plays made, and then all of a sudden it just started plummeting. And so it was something very intriguing to me when I kept seeing these massive put flow orders popping up, even though they had September expirations or December expirations here, November expirations. I still feel like, and there's probably more plays we can get out of them, quite honestly, but this had popped up yesterday on June 16th at 12:45, and I wanted to see if there was a way I could take this play, because this is the day before I'm looking to play it, which is pretty crucial for me because I want to look at capitalizing on these plays on the short term. So once we have the confirmation of how sectors have been going and we see the TradyFlow signals pointing out all these orders and premiums coming in that are very bearish on XOM, the first thing I did was go into the ticker dashboard under options. And right away, now this has adjusted today after the sell-off. This is what it currently looks like, but I wanted to show what I was looking at the time. So under net flow, I have history set to 3 days, and you can see on the 16th when those big TradyFlow orders came in, we had this massive put spike. I mean, you can already see that there was cumulatively puts had been increasing while calls were diminishing. But then you have this massive move, and this right away tells me, okay, there's definitely going to be some more move left. Plus, we could see historically net premiums just continue to diminish, excluding today. After the end of the day, things are starting to come up a little bit, which is sort of expected after this massive sell-off. So right away, I have my conviction with those three things, and now my plan is, how do I make this play? So all day I'm always trading ES and NQ. Now, if you're not trading ES and NQ, I always recommend having SPY and QQQ up next to whatever you're trading, because it does help seeing the direction that they're going in. When you see them selling off and you're looking for puts, that's just extra conviction to hold on to your trade. They don't necessarily, it doesn't mean every single stock has to follow it. And honestly, if you're trading something small to mid caps, you can even look at SPY and IWM, which I would recommend. But in this case, I'm trading XOM. I have my market pulse with SPY and QQQ up, and I'm just essentially using, I know I want to get into puts, and I'm going to use these to help me stay in said puts. And then right here, if we go to XOM, now this is June 16th, the day before I plan on taking this trade, and you can see we had some chop back and forth. Then we had a big sell-off, and this was right at around 12:45. We see it moving up, but this is when the large put orders actually went in. And you can see, just because you see large flow does not mean to react right away, and that's always the case. And then it comes up to the value area high, which is this pinkish line, rejects, pulls back up, and then we close out with some chop. Now, this green line down here is the value area low, and if you haven't watched my previous videos to understand volume profile better, I highly recommend it. But right away, I know that I want to make these my levels. So going into the pre-market, we see we're well below the value area low. So my plan is, okay, I'm going to mark this as my trigger entry. Now, what I mean by trigger entry, I'm looking for puts. So you might be wondering, why am I looking for it to come up? And that's because when you have these big gap downs, there should be some sort of healthy pullback before we gain the momentum to just keep going, because it's very unlikely that big money is just going to just immediately start pushing this thing down more. They're always going to let it come up some, let buyers, let not so smart money buy this thing up when they think it's too low, and then they're going to use that momentum to help in the liquidity to help drive that thing down further. So my plan is if we either come up and touch the value area low from the day prior, or we come up above it and then move down below it. And ideally look for a break in or retest, but that also kind of depends on the momentum of how fast we come down below it that I'm going to enter this trade. So let's see how this plays out, and I'll show you where I got into this trade. So going into the day, we'll play this. And again, I do always leave SPY and QQQ up. Now, you can see right here, we have this the first two candles push up, and then we have this long wick rejection right off the previous day value area low. And this is actually where I entered my trade. It came up and rejected pretty hard, pretty fast. So I just got in puts as quickly as I could because of the conviction that I had. Also, I should mention I'm always watching market net flow as well, which can help. But anyway, so let's keep going here. So after I enter in puts, now I'm expecting to see a sell-off, and that's exactly what we get. And so we start to see this thing dropping off, and now my plan is to determine how to stay in this trade. Now, if we look at where we're at right now, even though we're chopping around a bit, we're not coming above the VWAP, and we're not coming above the current value area high. And those are things I'm looking for in order to stay in this trade. At this point, I'm already up because we're well below my trigger. IV is spiking because things are dropping. And lo and behold, thankfully, SPY and QQQ also start coming down, which just gives me extra conviction to hold this trade. So now, as we play this thing, we start to see it coming down more. And we start to get these big red candles, and we're just blowing out all levels, just dropping. And at this point, I'm really just paying attention. Now, I want to point out, when we get these green candles, we can tell that these two green candles, you want to see them, ideally you want to see them going on diminishing volume. So this is where things started getting scary. But at this point, you should always, whenever you're in a play like this, a high conviction play, directional play, and I was not gonna, if this thing had gone up and just started moving up, I would not have chased it with calls. I would have just scratched the play. I'm not one that says calls over this level and puts below this level. My whole idea is that I find conviction on a play, I stick with that play, and I scratch it if it goes against me. So when I start seeing it come up, I'm already saying, okay, if we break and close above this value area low with any sort of strength, and at the same time we start to see market strength, then I'm going to consider getting out. But as we can see, we just continue to dump, and there's just, and so at this point, like the value area lows and the POCs will start shifting down with it because volume starts falling down with it, and we just continue to drop. And now, so at this point is where I start thinking, okay, I need to start looking to exit. Also, at this point, we're well past the opening 90 minutes. It is now 11:09, and IV is really starting to take IB crush. If you're not familiar with options, I highly recommend understanding the Greeks before you ever consider trading options. But what happens is when you get these large volatile moves, IB spikes up, and the price of the options contract that you're in also spike up, which is great, fantastic if you're already in on those contracts. Now, what happens is when things start to slow down and the volatility starts to diminish and the market starts to stabilize, the IV starts to drop, and then Vega starts eating away at your profits. So it's kind of a double whammy because not only are we moving against it, which impacts delta and gamma, but we're also getting impacted by Vega because of IV dropping. And then the last component is, in this case, I had traded 0 DTEs, and I only do that in certain times, again, when I have high conviction and when it's before noon, and there's other factors that go into it too. But in this case, I was in 0 DTEs, and so I also have theta starting to eat away. So now my plan is I don't want to lose too much money. It started coming up, and so is I should point out, so is the rest of the market. But right here, when we drop back down again, and I start to see this bottom wick forming right here, this is where I start to take my exit. And you can actually see what ends up happening is that we come up again, and we actually do never actually get above this point, which is good. And I did get out. I mean, I could have captured a few, not really, because if you factor in Vega and Theta, I don't think I really would have made any more money. Honestly, if I probably waited a little too long. I wasn't watching the contract super closely, but I'm pretty sure I could have made more money if I had gotten out here. I think this cost me something somewhere around $40, letting this go up and come back down. But at this point, I'm out. And what's amazing about this is just in this move with 0 DTEs, I was able to capitalize over 400% thanks to conviction shown from TradyFlow, sector awareness, and lastly, net flow. And it truly was just as simple as that. And then executing the trade with volume profile, picking my trigger, watching SPY and QQQ to ensure that they're giving that extra conviction that is things are going to go our way. Because typically most stocks, especially large to mega cap stocks, will move with QQQ and SPY, at least in some capacity. They are strongly correlated with the rest of the market. And you start to see these also coming up, and that was just another key indicator. Okay, things are slowing down, time to get out. So I don't have to replay this whole thing. If you've looked at this chart, then you already know that it just proceeded to chop around the whole rest of the day. And if you really wanted to, you could have scalped plays back and forth, but at this point I just went back to focusing on trading ES and NQ, which were also phenomenal days. It was just a phenomenal day all around in the market, which surprised me actually, because it was a major options expiration day. We had a quad witching day. I did not expect to capture the moves that I did today. I was very, very pleased with how today went. But I just wanted to do a quick video to teach everyone how I take these plays once I'm able to get enough conviction on them, how I only favor one direction, and I always try to plot my triggers in a way that allows me to capture the most move. For instance, if I would have just went short out of the gate, I would have had a lot of fear here when it started moving against me. And quite honestly, that's, in my opinion, that's not the best way to take these. I don't like taking breaks. I like playing level holds, not level breaks. And this was a beautiful level hold. And if you start using this method with volume profile, it will astonish you how often the previous day value area lows, POC and value area highs come into play on the following day. It's just such an awesome way to create your entries and exits when you're playing a ticker using volume price analysis and you want a directional play. So anyway, hopefully you caught some moves too. I just want to show you real quick. Oxy did a very similar thing. You could have played it in a similar manner. Now, in this case, it did go above the previous day value area low, and that's what I was talking about. If that happens, the ideal way to play this, so if this was our trigger level, if you had chosen to play Oxy instead, we see it drop, hold, come back up, drop, and what we basically want is a break and a retest of this value area low. So and that happens right here. We break below it, retest it, and this would have been the entry, and then we just proceed to plummet. And then at that point, you would play it the exact same way that I just broke down XOM. I didn't know that XOM would be the bigger move. I mean, XOM does have higher point value, as you can see, but so I mean, I kind of assumed that it would be the case. Oxy is a smaller ticker, but if I had less money that I was playing with and I was fine with smaller moves, or I wanted to buy more contracts and scale out gradually, in this case, I planned on just making my move before 11 because that's how I like to play things, since I do have other priorities throughout the day that I need to pay attention to. But yeah, so I just wanted to point out how you could have played it. If it was a different ticker that didn't have as clean of a bounce, you still just essentially wait for the break and retest and then take your entry. You could try to chase it through a break, but again, you'd get scared a little bit. It's just cleaner to try to wait for a retest. And if you miss the trade, you miss the trade. It happens, and it's something that kind of sucks, but at the same time, it will save you money. It will save you so much of your capital to be patient and wait for good entries. And so that's all I have. If you have any questions, leave in the comments and let me know your thoughts. And I really appreciate you watching.